Week 5 of college football is upon us here in Blacksburg, and the Hokies get to bring it home as they face off against Pitt. We've got a whole slate of matchups to check out, guys. Kyle Marshak alongside Carter Hill and Sarah Luttenberger. But let's focus on Virginia Tech. At 1-3, they take on a 1-3 Pitt squad at Lane Stadium Saturday night. Two teams that are historically successful, but two different versions of those programs now. And Carter, I'll start with you. It's the injury bug for Virginia Tech that's been the big piece.
Oh, no doubt about it. I mean, you're without your starting quarterback in Grant Wells. Your receiving core has been decimated. No Ollie Jennings for the foreseeable future. Jalen Lane has been hamstringed with the hamstring issue, if you will. And then the defensive secondary, I mean, you're playing a true freshman in Mose Phillips and then a converted wide receiver in Jalen Jones, who also, by the way, is banged up for the Hokies. So it's been a massive issue for Virginia Tech. Yeah,
the Hokies are averaging 17 points per game in their last 3 contests, right? So only one game they've actually had a decent offensive output, and that was against ODU in week 1. So Sarah, my question for you, what does Virginia Tech got to do? The offensive numbers have been kind of an oxymoron for them so far.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're lost a lot of numbers on their receiving end, but their rush game isn't really doing any better. Looking at Marshall's Rasheen Ali last game, had just as many yards as the entire Virginia Tech offense in the run game. And on top of that, the yards that they did get were lost from 9 penalties that took away 70 yards for the Hokies, including the pass interference that led Marshall to score right at the end of the game. So those kinds of mistakes definitely not helping their already struggling offense.
Yeah, let's take a deeper dive in the happenings from last week. Kendall Williams was on the scene in Marshall.
It was another tough day for Virginia Tech football here in Huntington as they got what you would call thunderstruck. The Marshall Thundering Herd took down the Virginia Tech Hokies with a final score of 24-17 in a long, hard-fought game that came just short of a comeback in the last seconds of the fourth quarter. This marks the 3rd straight loss for Virginia Tech this season. A beautiful sunny day in Huntington, West Virginia, and another Coal Bowl ready to take effect. The Marshall Thundering Herd and Virginia Tech Hokies squared off for the 14th time in their histories. But unlike their past 9 matchups that resulted in a Tech triumph, this game belonged to the Thundering Herd. For some Virginia Tech players and staff, it was an opportunity to return to a place they once called home. Quarterback Grant Wells, who started his first 2 years of collegiate football for the Thundering Herd, and Coach J.C. Price, who spent 9 seasons at Marshall as the co-defensive coordinator and defensive line coach. The fireworks from the Hokies offense shot off quickly in the first quarter, but the show began to come to an end much sooner than they had hoped for. On their first possession of the day, the Virginia Tech offense marched 75 yards downfield to secure the first score of the game. The Hokies offense, led by second-time starter Kyron Drones, has looked a bit different since the absence of Virginia Tech's QB1, Grant Wells, who's been battling an injury since the loss at home against Purdue. The game-opening drive, resulting in a 31-yard run into the end zone by Drones himself, marked the first time the Hokies had scored on offense in the first quarter this season. The run game looked strong for Virginia Tech until a thundering Marshall defense was able to stop it, and then continue to stop it for the rest of the day. Marshall put up their first points of the afternoon at the beginning of the second quarter when Cam Fancher found a Marcus Harris off of a 12-yard completion, tying the game at 7 apiece. From there, the Hokies put 3 more on the board thanks to a John Love field goal early in the second quarter. But the flame continued to extinguish on offense for Virginia Tech after multiple 3-and-outs and some heavy hits from the Marshall defense. To make matters worse, Virginia Tech couldn't build momentum on their defense either. Heading into the half, Marshall led Virginia Tech 17-10 and outscored the Hokies 17-3 in the second quarter alone. All hope wasn't lost, though, as the Hokies only trailed the Thundering Herd by 7 at the intermission. But in order to defeat a stout Marshall defense, Virginia Tech had to figure out their run game issues going into the second half.
Yeah, that was a conversation at halftime. Let's reestablish the run. And we came out in the third quarter and tried to and couldn't get it going. You know, they tightened up and were handing the ball off and getting nothing or minus yardage. So we absolutely needed to try and reestablish it there.
After a long third quarter and no luck with their run game, Virginia Tech's offense continued to struggle heading into the fourth. On the other side, the Thundering Herd offense posted another 7 points after Ali Rasheen carried for a 1-yard touchdown midway through the third quarter, making it a 24-10 ballgame. But to add insult to injury for the Hokies, it was becoming evident that their defense was having a penalty problem.
Yeah, I think we had too many penalties on third down today. We had a couple of, where we're offsides, and then we had the PI. And, we just can't do those things.
Heading into the final quarter, Virginia Tech tried to claw their way back into the game. And after an impressive spark from the Hokies offense led by another Drones touchdown, they were able to find themselves back within one score of the Thundering Herd. After a big stop on defense led by a Keontae Jenkins interception, the Hokies offense had their last shot to tie the Herd and take it to overtime. But the comeback came just short once again for the Hokies this season after a false start call on 4th and 1, ultimately backing the Hokies up 5 yards to make it a 4th and 6 instead. An incompletion to Jalen Lane sealed the game, and Marshall secured their first win over Virginia Tech since 1940. It's safe to say that it's been a frustrating 1-3 start to the season for Virginia Tech, with 2 of their 3 losses now separated by only a singular score.
I mean, yeah, everybody going to be frustrated, especially when you're losing on games like you say you should have won. Tired of losing by 1 score every time. So, yeah, we just got to put it all together 4 quarters.
Yeah, it can be very frustrating, like losing the same way week after week. But going into the next week, the grind that you have to put in, you always have to invest in more. Just let us know it's still room for improvement and it's still room for us to become the team that we want to be.
Consistency on both sides of the ball has been a battle, and one that they know will need to be fixed heading into the remainder of the season.
We got to play a little bit better. We got to make our plays. There's a few more plays out there that we can make. And our margin of error is razor thin. We can't make the mistakes. We can't have costly things at the wrong time. We're just not the type of team to overcome that. We battle, we fight, we play hard, we practice hard. And we got to be smarter as coaches. We got to be smarter as players. We got to play more consistent.
Virginia Tech opens up ACC play next weekend back home in Lane Stadium as the Pitt Panthers roll into town for an 8 p.m. kickoff on Saturday night. Marshall hopes to keep its win streak alive and defend their home turf as they welcome the Old Dominion Monarchs next Saturday afternoon at 3:30 p.m. Until then, I'm Kendall Williams signing off for 3304 Sports.
Thanks, Kendall. Well, guys, again, it's going to be the offense that's the focus of this game, but not because they're strong, but because they're weak. Virginia Tech with the worst running game, the 3rd worst passing game, and Pitt overall is the worst offense in the ACC. So let's play doctor a little bit here and continue this conversation about Virginia Tech's offense or lack thereof. I mean, is it the quarterback room? Is it the wide receiver room? Or is it Tyler Bowen's offensive scheme overall? That's my question. Sarah, what do you think?
Interestingly enough, both teams are dealing with questionable quarterback situations. Yeah. We have Drones, who is producing 175 yards per game on average, and we have Dracovic, who is a little behind at 145, but he did get knocked out of the Carolina game last week. Now, his status is questionable, and we have Narduzzi, who said, and I quote, "We don't know who their starting quarterback is," in reference to Virginia Tech, so they won't know who ours will be. Wells was hurt, but there's a chance he's back, meaning that Drakovic's status will be questionable until kickoff tomorrow night.
Yeah, how about the consistency of ambiguity in head coaches in the ACC and whether or not their quarterback's going to be playing right? And that's still a question up in the air for Grant Wells, which we'll continue that conversation later. But on top of that, too, I mean, when there are struggling offenses, but 2, let's say, respectable defenses, Carter, what does it come down to for this matchup?
Well, I think Virginia Tech, they have to run the football. I mean, they did that in spurts this past week in the loss to Marshall, but, yeah. I mean, the offensive line has struggled. You're using a quarterback that can use his legs now, and Kyron Drones. You got to continue to run the football better, particularly with no Ollie Jennings still in the game. So Hokies got to run the football. Pitt has run the football well as well, and, they can against this Tech defensive front.
Absolutely. Well, let's backtrack it to my first point, the running game or a lack thereof. And we do have a doctor on the case in Nels Williams. Nels, what do you got for us?
Enough with the trick plays, Bert. Run the dang ball. Now that's an iconic phrase that's been printed on hats, coined in movies such as the quote from The Blind Side you just heard me say, and it's something that Virginia Tech has had an issue with in generating offensively and, on the other hand, stopping defensively so far this season. Through 4 games, Tech ranks 116th out of 133 Division I programs in rushing offense, with a measly average of roughly 108 rushing yards put up a game. Now, on the defensive side of the ball, it's the 8th worst amongst all D1 programs, as the Hokies allow an average of 212 yards on the ground by opponents per game. Now, there is some good news for Tech fans, though. Through the last few weeks, Virginia Tech has gotten relatively better in both departments. Between Rutgers and Marshall, Tech allowed 42 fewer rushing yards on 10 more running attempts by the Thundering Herd, and then in Week 4 ran for 55 more yards against Marshall than they did against the Scarlet Knights in 9 fewer rushing attempts. Now, the signs are certainly pointing towards Tech slowly figuring out their rushing woes on both sides of the ball week by week. But in preparing against Pitt, The Hokies, unfortunately, are no stranger to performing poorly on running defense to backs donning the blue and gold jerseys, and they are certainly haunted by what went down last year in Pittsburgh. Just last season, former Panther running back and current New York Jet Israel Abanikanda broke football legend Tony Dorsett's single-game rushing record as a Panther by racking up 320 yards against the Hokies. He also dropped 6 touchdowns on Tech, which tied a record set all the way back in 1910 for most TDs scored in one game by a Pitt player. That generational performance was the most rushing yards given up by the Hokies' defense ever, and the most in 10 years prior to that point. It was embarrassing for Virginia Tech, but the good news for the Hokies this season is that history is most likely not to repeat itself Saturday night. While Pitt head coach Pat Narduzzi and its offense is sure to target Tech's weak point in blocking the run, the Panthers have struggled to kickstart its running game itself. Pitt and starting running back Rodney Hammond Jr. are only notching an average of 136 yards per game, which in the ACC is 12th worst and just one above Virginia Tech. So while the Hokies will be focusing on sharpening their run defense this Saturday, Pitt will hope that they can use this matchup to their advantage to get theirs going. And it won't be the same case or as easy for Virginia Tech, however, as Pitt's run defense is shaping up to give the Hokies a headache. The Panthers only allow 111 yards rushed for per game, which is 42nd in all of Division I and 5th in the ACC. Both Pitt and Virginia Tech are hoping to walk out of Lane Stadium Saturday night in the win column after disappointing starts to both of their seasons, and it's looking to be a close matchup with Pitt being the narrow favorite. But I can tell you this, whoever walks out of Lane Stadium 1-0 this week will have run the dang ball well and stopped it too. Guys.
Good stuff as always, Nels. Just run the dang ball. I love that. You guys Blindside enthusiasts?
I am,
It's a
yeah.
good movie. That's like a
Absolutely.
childhood football
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah, like 2009.
That and
back
like
then.
Remember the Titans, some classics.
That one is a better movie. I like that one a little bit better.
Yeah, me
Well, we get off track. real
I know.
quick.
I'm so sorry. My fault.
All
My
right,
fault, everybody.
so get this, right? The all-time series between Virginia Tech and Pitt, 11-11, Make-A-Wish, right? And then on top of that, Virginia Tech got mauled in Acrisure Stadium last time they met up. So my question for you, Carter, how has Pitt evolved since that matchup?
Well, I mean, they're a completely different football team. You know, in the past, Pitt football has been talented across all skill positions. The quarterback, Kenny Pickett a couple years ago.
Yep.
Israel Abanikanda last year. To Nels's point, 6 touchdowns, 324 yards. Well, they don't have him anymore. It's Rodney Hammond in the backfield, the Norfolk native. So a completely different offensive attack. Phil Jerkovic is a different quarterback. And then defensively, you still have your big, tall, lanky playmakers as well, only giving up 3 yards a carry on the rush. So it's a similar type of defensive scheme, but offensively a little bit different for the Pitt Panthers.
Well, the one thing defensively they do have going for Pitt is their pass rushing. Second in the ACC with 14 sacks, and they've collected 84 yards on those losses as well. So, Sarah, my question for you, how about that D-line?
We're looking at a line that's really old. They got a lot of experience, a lot of talent. It helps them they're just really solid across the board. They have a couple stars. We're looking at David Green, Bam Brema. They have combined 29 tackles, and David Green has 1.5 sacks himself.
Yeah, no, they're freaks for sure. And like the numbers indicate, Pitt definitely brings a lot to the table. So for more on that, here's Will Loughlin.
The Steel City, a place where football is intertwined in the hearts of every Yinzer from the northern banks of the Allegheny River to the sublime south side skyline. Now, I hope you didn't mistake me for talking about Pittsburgh's resident NFL team. Apologies to all the terrible towel lovers across the world, present company included. No, we're talking about the passionate Panthers of Pittsburgh, whose story is far less known. Pittsburgh may host little brother birthday party turnouts for their Saturday bouts at Acrisure Stadium compared to the heavyweight festivities of an NFL Sunday, but the Panthers' legacy has been as good as gold in recent memory. Count 6 winning seasons and 7 bowl appearances with an ACC title in the Pat Narduzzi tenure. 2021 was an especially strong season for the Panthers as they won 11 games en route to a conference crown, which was their highest total since 1981. To add on, Pitt has been a solid spot for next-level talent. They've churned out 14 NFL draft picks since 2021, the most in a 3-year span in the program's 118-year history. But let's hop off memory lane and take a pit stop to the good old present, where you'll notice that the Panthers are off to an uncharacteristically poor start to their 2023 campaign. Now, at 1-3, Pitt, much like their upcoming opponent Virginia Tech, are on a 3-game skid, dropping most recent contests to the likes of Cincinnati, West Virginia, and North Carolina, making the Panthers anxious to not find themselves imprisoned as the ACC cellar dweller. Now, at quarterback, you'll find seasoned veteran Phil Jerkovic, who, get this, he's been in college a year longer than even Bo Nix. Now, next to Jurkovich is a trio of backs, all of which have over 100 yards on the ground. The head honcho, the running back room, Rodney Hammond Jr., has 3 trips to the end zone, and with the Hokies' run defense being a weak point, Pitt's backs could be in for pay dirt Saturday evening as the Panthers look to make it 4 straight victories over the Hokies on a white night inside Lane Stadium.
Thanks, Will. Well, although Pitt's quarterback is a well-established QB1 in the ACC, Virginia Tech's QB situation is a little more complicated. Not only are they relying on a newcomer to the conference, but a newcomer to the QB1 role overall, coming up on just his 3rd start in his college career. Robert Bateman dove deeper. What you got for us, Rob?
Growing up, my dad always told me, there's always someone coming for your spot. And that quote seems like the perfect way to describe Virginia Tech this year. Through a plague of injuries, Brent Pry and his men had to adapt to many absences throughout the year. Now, this applies all across the field, but specifically, I want to hone in on the quarterback room, where a seamless transition is the only way I'd describe the change this year. Last year, the Hokies ended their season at 3-8, and fans found themselves calling for VT to hit the transfer portal, and hit the transfer portal they did. The Hokies brought in 7 transfers, and most notably was a 4-star quarterback transfer from Baylor, Kyron Drones. With Grant Wells only throwing 9 touchdowns with 9 interceptions in 2022, many fans called for Drones to take over the reins under center for the Hokies. Now, for those who don't know, it's custom in football to have what they call a position battle, when 2 players are competing for a starting spot. I'll save you all the minor details and sum it up as Grant Wells won the starting job, but Pry claimed Drones would still be in the picture. Brent Pry kept his promise somewhat in the Hokies' first game against ODU, where we did see both Drones and Wells, but Drones only played 4 snaps, and it seemed like Wells would predominantly be in charge of the offense once again. Sadly for Grant Wells, however, he would be hurt in VT's 2nd game of the year against Purdue, and for the first time, Virginia Tech fans would get the opportunity to watch a whole drive with Kyron Drones under center. He would come in and throw for 32 yards while rushing for 13, which isn't much, but it was enough to put a glimmer of hope into the Hokie faithful. And just like that, another week would go by, and the Hokies would travel up to Piscataway, New Jersey to take on Rutgers. Drones would start and throw for 190 yards and a touchdown with only 1 interception. But the number that really caught the attention of fans was Drones' 74 yards on the ground. Virginia Tech would go on to lose 35-16 and fall to 1-2. Once again, another week would come and go, and Grant Wells would still be unavailable. So once again, insert Drones. The Hokies would suffer defeat again this time against Marshall, Grant Wells' former team. But Drones would rush for 2 touchdowns and 75 yards, once again exciting the fans. This week, the Hokies take on the Pitt Panthers, and with a record of 1-3, VT desperately needs a win. So who else to go to but Kyron Drones, a young, mobile quarterback who has shown promise in his first 2 starts. Hold on a second. I'm going to say that one more time. A young, mobile quarterback who has shown promise? Sounds a little familiar. Maybe to a name you might remember, Michael Vick. Well, he'll actually be attending this weekend. And for Hokies fans, I'm sure him and Drones will have a conversation or 2. So all that's left now is for Drones to step into Lane Stadium for the first time as QB1 and try to knock off Pitt, who does have a weaker secondary. So for his first win as Virginia Tech's starting quarterback, we'll just see what Kyron Drones has in store.
Stellar stuff as always, Roberto. All right, guys, let's get to the good stuff, right? We've covered the injury bug. We've covered the offensive struggles of both times, or both sides, that is. So now we beg the question, our final predictions. Winner and score. Carter, let's go with you.
I think Pitt wins it 3-0.
3-0. Is that a genuine prediction?
No, I'll go like 17-10.
I mean, you might have been in the ballpark there.
I know. Oh, I'm so sorry. 17-10. No, okay, I'm sorry, Sarah. I'll say 17-13.
Okay.
Pitt over Virginia Tech.
What about you?
Well, I'll go with 17-10 for that reason. I think
he stole your score?
he did.
Wow.
We're just on the same wavelength.
I'm so sorry.
It's
Okay, so we've got one consistency, and I think it's that Virginia Tech's going to stay in that 17-point realm.
Yes.
I have 21-17. Pitt's going to walk away with the W and grab their 2nd win of the year in a rocking Lane Stadium, which at least we have that to look forward to, right, for anyone on campus over at Virginia Tech.
Absolutely.
All right, well, with that being said, speaking of predictions, we had a dang good slate of them from last week in our debut of a new segment, and Giovanni Heaters got them covered.
Yeah, Kyle, we switch it up a bit this week, and we bring you an even cooler segment titled Got It Covered. Here we'll pick games against the spread based on category and caliber of competition. Now, you may be asking yourself, can I trust these kids? Well, our track record has yet to disappoint. In the show's debut last Friday, we went 4-2-1 on the weekend. Our picks, a Syracuse PAT and a Notre Dame 11th player away from finishing 6-1. Not bad, if we do say so ourselves. So sit back, relax, and get ready for your weekly bout with the books. It's time to show Vegas who's boss. Give me my theme music. Week 4 brought the heat with some of the most watched college football in recent history, and Week 5 isn't slowing down. We start with our C-tier cautious covers. For our first stop on the trip, we trek out to the Mountain West. Number 25, Fresno State, plays host to winless Nevada. The Bulldogs have cracked the AP Top 25 for the 3rd year in a row, and they come in as 24.5-point favorites for good reason. The Wolfpack have the 3rd worst scoring defense in the country, and Fresno State quarterback Mikey Keene continues to deal, ranked 13th in the nation in passing. The Bulldogs are averaging 39 points per game and should have no trouble on Saturday night. I'm taking Fresno State to cover a massive spread at home. Book it, baby. Fresno State minus 24.5. We head to the SEC for our next cautious cover as Kentucky hosts number 22, Florida. Now this one is interesting with the spread nearly even. The Gators are inconsistent, coming off the heels of an unconvincing win over Charlotte after dominating Tennessee the week prior. Kentucky, on the other hand, is undefeated and have won every game by double digits. The argument is, have they played anybody? The Wildcats' best wins come over Vanderbilt and Akron, but you can't deny good defense. Kentucky gives up just 15.5 points per game, and Florida ranks 76th in the country offensively. Inspired by a fiery crowd in Lexington, I like the Wildcats to win a close one at home. Book it, baby. Kentucky minus 1. Staying in the conference where it just means more, we've got an AP Top 25 matchup as number 13 LSU heads to Oxford to battle number 20 Ole Miss. The Tigers cannot afford a second loss if they want to keep their college football playoff hopes alive, while Lane Kiffin's Rebels look to avoid an 0-2 start to conference play. This is one of those games that, I'm going to be honest, could really go either way, which is represented by a 2.5-point spread in favor of LSU. It just feels as though Ole Miss is chomping at the bit after letting Alabama slip away late last week in Tuscaloosa. For that, combined with a bit of a gut feeling, I'm taking the Rebels to win this one outright at home as our underdog of the week. Book it, baby. Ole Miss plus 2.5. Now we move up to our B tier, our balanced bets. Starting off with a marquee ACC clash, Clemson makes the trip to the Dome to take on unbeaten Syracuse. If you've watched this matchup over the years, you know the Orange always give the Tigers fits, especially in the 3-1-5. 6.5-point underdog Syracuse is led offensively by 2 of the top 7 rushers in the ACC with quarterback Garrett Schrader and tailback LaQuint Allen. Clemson, however, boasts one of the top rushing defenses in the nation. Still, a spread of nearly a touchdown just doesn't seem sensible to give a Clemson team that has been virtually eliminated from national and maybe even conference championship contention. I'm taking Dino Babers and the mob to cover like they so often do when facing Dabo Swinney's Tigers. Book it, baby. Syracuse plus 6.5. Let's keep this party rocking in Boulder as Colorado looks to bounce back against number 8 USC. The Trojans come in as 3-touchdown favorites after outlasting Arizona State, while the Buffs remain without sophomore sensation Travis Hunter. USC's offense is littered with an embarrassment of riches led by Heisman incumbent Caleb Williams, but the Buffs got Shedeur, and he is his daddy's son. Even though Coach Prime's boys got humbled a week ago, USC lacks the physicality in the trenches that allowed Oregon to be so dominant. That, combined with Colorado's offensive playmaking ability, makes it easy to believe that the Buffs can hang around with their top 10 foe. 21 is a number that seems to favor Mr. Sanders, so I'm taking Colorado to cover at home. Book it, baby. Colorado plus 21.5. We tailgate on to Lincoln, Nebraska as the Cornhuskers welcome the second-ranked Michigan Wolverines for a 3:30 kick. It's safe to say that this one shouldn't be close, as Michigan comes in as 17-point favorites behind the top-ranked scoring defense in the country. Nebraska struggles to put up both points and yards as they bear the burden of being a bottom 10 passing offense in the nation. You know, we thought that Rutgers would keep it close last week, and they covered at 24. Michigan looks legit, and for that, the Wolverines cover big time on the road. Book it, baby. Michigan minus 17. We move up once again to a pair of elite caliber covers with our A-tier automatic aces. To the desert we go as Arizona hosts 7th-ranked Washington in Tucson. The Huskies enter as 19-point favorites, and I don't think it's enough. Michael Penix Jr. might be the best player in all of college football, leading the nation in passing and spearheading the 3rd highest scoring offense in the country. In a year where there is no clear king in college football, Washington looks like they can compete for a national championship. I'm taking the Huskies to roll in Tucson, keeping their unblemished record against the spread intact. Oh yeah. Book it, baby. UW minus 19. Let's keep it rolling with College Game Day in Durham as number 17 Duke hosts number 11 Notre Dame. Mike Elko's Blue Devils have been one of the pleasant surprises in this sport, while the 5.5-point favorite Irish strive to get back to their winning ways. Duke is a bit, one-dimensional on offense, while Notre Dame can hurt you with their veteran quarterback Sam Hartman or the nation's top rusher in Audric Estime. Durham is far from a hostile environment and will likely host many fans of the Irish as well. I like Notre Dame to cover and win by a touchdown on the road. Book it, baby. Notre Dame minus 5.5. Last and most certainly not least, we hit you with our S tier, Super Selection of the Week. It might not be the biggest game on the slate, but it is certainly our most confident cover. The ACC contending Cardinals of Louisville are on the road in Raleigh to take on the Wolfpack of NC State. As 3.5-point favorites, Louisville is nearly unstoppable. Not to mention, Jawar Jordan leads the ACC in all-purpose yards and touchdowns. I continue to be absolutely baffled by this line and can only make sense of it by factoring in possible severe weather. Regardless, the Cards are just too good and this spread is too slim. You heard it here. Louisville will make a down year for NC State even worse on Friday night. Book it, baby. The Ville minus 3.5. Well, we ran through the slate, but wait, there's more. We've got one last bonus bet in store. Let's run this bad boy with a future pick of the week. We just got done talking about how darn good Louisville is, so strike it while the iron's hot. At plus 1,000, the Cardinals have the 5th best odds to win the ACC. And I'm telling you what, we're taking that all day long. Book it, baby. Louisville, ACC champs in 2023. Woo, man, that was fun. Let's go ahead and recap. In our C tier, we're taking Fresno State, Kentucky, and Ole Miss to pick up big wins. In our B tier, we like Syracuse, Colorado, and Michigan to cover. In our A tier, we went with Washington and Notre Dame to show out on the road. And of course, our Super Selection of the Week, Louisville to decimate NC State. Toss the Cards in as an ACC futures pick, and you're good to go. Man, week 5 should not disappoint. Enjoy the festivities, and we'll see you right back here next week. And hey, when they call, you be sure to tell them we got it covered.
Woo! Electric stuff as always, Giovanni. Man, that is one of my new favorite segments on this show. He had him covered.
Oh, no doubt about it. Book it, baby.
Book it, baby.
Book it. It's magic right in front of our eyes. Poof.
I know. Watching
Like
that
at Disney
happen
World.
in the studio is incredible. All right, with all the shenanigans this weekend, right? The Pitt football game. I know what you're doing for that game.
We'll be
We're
hanging
calling
out
it
with you,
together.
yeah.
We'll be real
Have a
close for
great
that
time.
game. But how about you? What's your plan for this game in Lane?
I will be enjoying that electric stadium. As a fan, it's a military appreciation game. Got myself a nice white USA shirt, supporting Virginia Tech and America at the same time.
I love it.
It'll be a great time.
So what's the outfit look like? Because you have like the blue and white going on right now. It's going to be a different fit.
No, the fit will be some red maroonish Virginia Tech leggings, and I have a nice white t-shirt that I got at the YMCA, and it just says, God bless the USA. Got a little face paint, little like eye black, red, white, and blue.
You didn't strike me as a face paint girl.
No, me
for these
neither.
football
Me
games.
neither.
I have a little too much school spirit.
Party City? Are you like a Party
Clearly, we're
City
not as tight
person?
as I thought we were.
No, I went to Michael's actually.
Oh, how much?
$5.
We should
not
make
bad.
a run there tonight.
$5, that could be stiff for a college kid, but you never know.
I don't know. Can the broadcasters have face paint on?
You don't have to tell anybody.
Yeah, but no one's going to see us.
Nobody's
in the
going
booth,
to
right?
see us. Nah, we're radio.
All right, how about this Chiefs-Jet game? What What's the over-under on how many Taylor Swift sightings we're
Oh
gonna have?
my gosh.
Yeah,
You go first,
I said
Sarah.
it.
You're the Swiftie.
Yeah, you're the Swiftie.
I'm not the Swiftie.
Yes, you are.
See,
We just talked about it, Sarah.
unfortunately, the lack of Aaron Rodgers means that there's going to be seats in the stadium for Taylor Swift fans.
So what do you think the percentage of T-Swift fans, because you know Taylor Swift put Travis Kelce on the map.
Yes,
I
true.
think we're going to be looking at like 40-60, like 40 Taylor, 60 Jets.
That is a bold,
Well, I
bold
saw the
take.
prices on StubHub like tripled because of T Swift in the house.
I'm actually pretty sure Travis Kelce's jerseys sales are up like 400% right now.
Yeah.
So that begs the question now, when Taylor Swift's on tour, is Travis Kelce going to be on camera?
He's got to be, right?
Right?
He's got to be.
It's a fair trade.
I mean,
you
like,
would say so.
I will say, Sarah, that we will see Taylor Swift over 15 times at MetLife Stadium on Sunday.
I like it. Well, it's an over-under. You have to put the half. 14 and a half.
Yeah,
You're
I'll
taking
take
the
the
over.
over. Yeah.
What about you?
Hmm.
Oh, she's thinking about it.
I am thinking.
She's in deep
How
thought.
many times they bring the camera to her?
Yeah.
Oh, I wish I watched the Chiefs game, but I didn't.
But you had to have
wow.
seen it
I
on
did.
Twitter. It was all
Of
over
course
social
I did.
media.
All right, I'll take Carter's 14 and a half, but I'll go under.
You'll go under.
Yeah.
All right. Well, now we have a bet in place. I love
You're
it.
right.
All right. Well, for all of our reporters in the studio, and Giovanni Heater, Robert Bateman, Nels Williams, Will Lachlan, and Kendall Williams, my partners, of course, here on the desk, our resident T Swiftie fan in Sarah Luttenberger, and of course, CB Hill. And of course, our fine producers in the room here from the Moss Arts Center, Phoebe Winters, Jessica Rosenquist, and Cheyenne Davidson. And don't forget Cody Wagner. I'm Kyle Marshak saying so long for our entire crew here at the Moss Arts Center. And we'll see you guys next time in our future installments of the 3304 Kickoff Show.